I'm Mary Murphy. I am the superintendent of the Marlborough Public Schools, and welcome to Season 2 of the Superintendent's Corner. We're so pleased to be back. We do need to admit that we are filming this on August 18th, and we have just swam through the streets of Marlborough to the studio to try to film this. So please bear with us as we dry off throughout this episode. But we are pleased to be here. And with me is
Dr. Scaza, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning.
And Jody O'Brien, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services and Equity.
And Christine Dolan, Principal of Whitcomb School.
So thank you for joining us for this episode. We did want to take a couple of minutes to just review some of the traditional events that happen in the Marlborough Public Schools for any new families that are sending their students to our schools for the first time. We have a couple of unique traditions in Marlborough for especially our elementary students, so we want to review what that schedule looks like at the beginning of the school year. The very first event happens on August 29th, and that is something we call Open Door Day. And that event is for students in grades 1 through 5, so all 4 elementary schools. And students should have received a letter this week from their classroom teachers welcoming them if they are in grades 1 through 5. Kindergarten's a little bit different, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Dr. Skazar, you have been an elementary principal. Do you want to share a little bit about Open Door Day?
Yeah, it's a great event. Teachers scramble to make sure that everything is ready and looking pristine and polished in the classrooms right at the end of the summer, so students and families can come in and alleviate some of the anxiety that they might have about coming to school after the summer, visit the classroom, say hello to the teacher quickly, get familiar with the school or re-familiar with the school, and then get ready for the first day of school.
So most of our events that we plan at the beginning of the school year for the elementary students are designed to decrease any anxiety and make sure that families and students are completely welcomed in our school. So that is the first thing, and that is the day before school starts for students in grades 1 through 12.
5.
The day before, 1 through
before.
12,
Yes.
all start before our little friends. So on the August 30th is the first day of school for all of our students in grades 1 through 12. Bus routes should be posted on the website the week of the August 28th, so you should be able to be prior to 28th, the week before. So you should be able to have that information. It's a little easier to understand it on the website. If there's any specific questions, you can also ask at the elementary schools for Open Door Day, but those lines get very, very long. So if you can look up that information on the website, it's very helpful.
And for the first week, so it's only Wednesday and Thursday of the first week for students, I think we need to let parents know to be a little bit patient with the bus drivers and stuff. So some of them might be new bus drivers, new routes. And so typically the first 2 days, buses are arriving late. So if you're at the bus stop and it's supposed to be at a specific time and it's been like 15 minutes or so or 20 minutes, still wait, because it might be that the bus driver is held up as far as being able to pick up students, right?
Right. We welcome the preschool students and our kindergarten students the following week after that 4-day weekend that we have for Labor Day. So our students in grades 1 through 12 have school on Wednesday and Thursday, and then we all take a deep breath and have a long weekend and return back after Labor Day. For the couple of days when students in grades 1 through 12 are in school, the kindergarten students are participating in kindergarten screening, and those appointments were all given out during the registration process. So kindergarten parents should have that information and know when their scheduled appointment is. And if there are any kindergarten parents out there or students that will be 5 prior to September 1st, please make sure that you've registered. Go online and start the registration process so that you can start and participate in all the beginning of the school year. The next event happens after the Labor Day. So Tuesday is for Early Childhood Center.
We're talking orientation for
Yes.
the Early Childhood Center on September 5th, and then an orientation for kindergarten students in all of the elementaries on September 6th at each respective elementary school.
So for the kindergarten orientation, we have a couple of unique traditions for that as well. Students in grades 1 through 12 get dropped off at school, and then on the 6th, the buses go back out for a second route, special routes just for kindergarten children and their families. It gives them an opportunity for them to take the bus ride together for the first time. It also is an opportunity for the bus drivers to see the adults that will be at the bus stop or to make those arrangements, because kindergarten students are not let off the bus once school starts unless there's an adult there to greet them and to take them off the bus. It's a safety protocol that we have in place, and so the bus driver needs to be able to see who the responsible adult is for each of the children. It is at that time when the kindergarten students also get to meet their classroom teachers and to see their classrooms.
Because they won't know who their teacher is prior to orientation. correct?
Yes, yes. So the schools will greet everyone, all the parents give some basic information, but a majority of the time is designed so that students and families can see the classroom. And that will alleviate some of that first day, hopefully, jitters of the next day for the kindergarten students.
Right.
And then everyone will be in school the following day,
Yeah.
which is on Thursday after Labor Day. Yes.
Right. Well, I feel like I'm starting to dry off a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So we hope if there are any questions or concerns, or if this information seems confusing, please contact your elementary school. As I think most parents know, students go to their local elementary schools.
I think one thing to also note for next week, the week prior to school starting, the school nurses will be in. So if there are any parents who have updated medical information that they need to, really important, critical medical information that the nurse needs to know, they can reach out to their school, and the nurse will be there so they can connect next week prior to school starting as well.
Yeah. Great point. Thank you. So we are going to, at this time, transition and have a discussion with Principal Dolan. So welcome. Over the last year or so, we've tried to introduce building leaders to the community members, and we're very excited that you are joining us today. We've had a lot of discussion, and we know that like all the principals, our work never stopped. We started meeting as a district leadership team and all the principals from the day after school started, I think, and has continued even within the last few days, the planning that's going forward. So can we start by just, will you share with the community some of your experience in Marlborough? Because I think almost the whole time I've been here, I've worked with you for many years. Yes.
So born and raised in Marlborough, graduated from Marlborough High School, so long history as a student in the Marlborough Public Schools. Raised 3 of my own children here. They all 3 graduated from Marlborough High School as well. When my youngest went back to school, I decided to kind of go back to work and started actually at Whitcomb School as a behavior tech at that time. Did that for a little bit before eventually transitioning to a special education math teacher. Did that for a few years and then transitioned to special education. Was team chair at the time, now our ETLs, and have just kind of gone up the ranks since then. I was out of district coordinator for a while, director of alternative education, followed by assistant principal at Whitcomb, and finally principal now.
Yeah.
Back when my kids were in school, I was also heavily involved in the Whitcomb PTO,
Yeah.
which we spent time together there.
Yeah.
Was the PTO president for, I believe, 2 or 3 years while my daughter was at Whitcomb as well. So I have experience both as a student, as a parent, and a teacher, administrator. Love Marlborough, and I love Whitcomb. I keep coming home to Whitcomb, so.
Yeah. One of the things that we don't know that parents know, so Whitcomb's a large middle school, right? And one of the things that we transitioned to within the last few years is when the 5th grade went down was to make it a true middle school for a number of reasons. First of all, like all of our schools, Whitcomb was out of space, which is a challenge, but also to developmentally, we believed that the 5th grade needed to have more of an elementary model, and the Whitcomb be more of a middle school model. Middle school is a wonderful world where students have the opportunity to be exposed to everything that Marlborough Public Schools offers, and we ask that they don't have to make any choices. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Whitcomb School offers our students and how it's different in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade?
Yeah, so when the kids come up to Whitcomb, one big change is that they are no longer in their self-contained classrooms anymore. I know in 5th grade they have rotate between 2 classrooms. In 6th grade they will be on a team. Each grade level has 4 teams. They are color-coded, so our 6th grade teams are all shades of green, our 7th grade teams are all shades of purple, and our 8th grade teams are all shades of yellow. So they will be assigned to a team which has 4 core teachers, their ELA, their math, their science, their social studies. So they will be with those students on that team, and then in addition to that, they go off for, every student gets a music class, so every student is in a performing group, either orchestra, chorus, or band, as well as PE, art classes. They rotate between art, health, digital media, and engineering. So they have an opportunity. Your student's schedule would be 4 core classes, 2 specials a day, and then what we call focus block. Within that focus block, there's a lot of different things. Kids are going in a lot of different directions. Some students will receive intervention, math or reading, academic support, things like that. Other students will receive some enrichment classes during that focus block, and then other students will just continue to work on some skills that maybe that they need to work on a little bit more. So that's the schedule of the day. So the students have the opportunity to try out a lot of specials that they might not be exposed to. We've got some new art teachers this year and digital media teachers.
Nice.
So we've switched up our course names. So we have things now like, I believe, creative arts and things like that. So they'll see some different types of electives classes in their schedule.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You just reminded me. Students and parents generally can see the student schedule
Yes.
and go through the parent portal and see grades and get a level of information that is different
Absolutely.
at the middle school than at the elementaries.
Absolutely. I sent out an email yesterday. Parents should have received that email. If they didn't, they can certainly contact the school and we will set them up. Letting families know that the Aspen portal is open, schedules are available on there, and inviting our 6th grade families to contact. The contact is Mary Van Lingen at Whitcomb School if they need access to Aspen to see their schedules. So that Aspen portal really gives parents a lot of information from how their student is doing grade-wise, attendance. They can take a look and see how many absences their student has. They can see any classwork that might not be turned in that the student still needs to make up, so that access to that Aspen portal is vital at Whitcomb School. And like I said, any parent that does not have access, they can certainly contact Mrs. Van Lingen at the middle school to get that access.
You had mentioned that students are put onto, assigned to a team of teachers, core 4. And I know a lot of middle schools do that teaming model for a specific purpose. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that team of teachers do? Like, they have a common planning time where they're able to discuss students, and the intent is that it even for a large school, it makes it a little bit smaller and a little bit more intimate for the student. So I know with they have the common planning time, but what are some of the things that you also have as a team to talk about those students?
So we spend a lot of time in our teams talking about students. Every other week, the student support teams meet with those teams of teachers, and a student support team at Whitcomb includes the grade level assistant principal, the grade level school adjustment counselor, and the grade level guidance counselor. So that is the parents' student support team, and that is who the kids go to. So that student support team meets with each team every other week to really talk about students. They might talk about attendance if a student is having difficulty. They might talk about somebody who has really made great improvement and trying to find a way to reach out to the parents and to reach out to the student to let them know they've done a great job changing, improving their grades or coming to school more often. So they really talk a lot about students and how we can support students and families. They also use that time when the student support team is not necessarily meeting with them. The teams meet and they might call parents in for meetings during that time as well to talk about their child. The teams often work together for like team expectations to make sure students are meeting the expectations, and during the focus block to also make sure that students are getting the help they need. If they're struggling in any one area, they might say, student is having difficulty in math, let's send them to the math teacher for that focus block. So that team of teachers really is who knows the child best.
So can we just back up for 1 second, because I realized from the parent perspective, one of the transitions, so we have students that transition to Whitcomb School, but we have parents. And for example, parents that were at Richard School when Dr. Skaza was the principal, they were routinely would reach out to Dr. Skaza as the principal, as their primary contact, or maybe Mrs. Richards as the assistant principal, and those were the point people. But you just mentioned that support team of the assistant principal, the guidance counselor, and the school adjustment counselor. The design is that when you enter in 6th grade, they stay with those students for the 3 years, right? So you have a different level of support, and generally we always, as a former Whitcomb principal, talking to the current Whitcomb principal, we always looked at the assistant principals as the grade level principals at Whitcomb, right? Yeah. So parents need to know that they can contact and reach out if there's any concerns or any questions. Those are the number one point person for their children and for themselves.
It's a great model because you're not meeting a new assistant principal or a new guidance counselor every year. They get their assistant principal, their student support team in 6th grade. And so, again, much like the teachers, those people get to know them very, very well and follow them until they move on up and away from Whitcomb in the 8th grade. So this year's assistant principal will be Miss Hurley with her support team, and then 7th grade is Mr. Richardson, and then 8th grade is Miss Cicatella, who is new to Whitcomb this year. Will be 8th grade. So yes, primary contact for parents should be their classroom teacher, homeroom teachers, but if there's any concerns, issues, they should absolutely contact any member of that student support team.
And if you're the person they feel most comfortable with,
Absolutely.
You are always available as well. They need to know, but
Yes.
we have multiple different layers in place.
As the former assistant principal for this year's 7th grade class, I do have parents contacting me, and that is absolutely fine. I have made some really good connections with families and with students, particularly in that grade, as their former assistant principal. So yes, they can absolutely contact me with any concerns.
On the subject of comfort, there was a program offered this summer to make students a little bit more comfortable with that transition. Can you talk about the Jumpstart program?
Jumpstart is a wonderful program that we have offered. I believe this was the second year we offered it. Might have been the third.
I think it's the third.
Third, yeah. For incoming sixth graders. So any student who is, graduating from elementary school, moving on in the fifth grade, coming to Whitcomb, is eligible to participate in Jumpstart Whitcomb. It is a week-long program, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, where they get to come into Whitcomb. They meet staff, they tour the building, they meet other students coming from the other elementary schools. So they're not just, they might know some students from Richer if they went to Jarrick. So it's a really great opportunity to meet. They do a lot of really fun activities, tie-dye t-shirts, team building activities. It's a really great opportunity. Transportation is provided, so parents don't have to worry about getting their student to and from Whitcomb. So I strongly encourage any fifth grade parents to look for that information towards the end of the school year to sign up for that Jumpstart program. It is a phenomenal program, and I think it runs for 4 weeks.
After
out
the
of
4th
summer.
of July
Yeah.
week. It does not run the week of the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So for planning purposes, we would hope that
Yes.
fifth grade
Yeah.
parents, current fifth grade, will start.
And it's for like 4 1-week groups, right? It's a different
Correct.
group each week.
It's
So you can go pick a week that you might not be on, family might not be on vacation. And there's some flexibility there that they wouldn't miss out on that opportunity because there's 4 separate choices, right?
Yep. Yeah. This year, when the students came up from fifth grade to tour Whitcomb, we gave them all pencils with a little note card on it that had the QR code for registration. So parents should look for something like that towards the end of the year.
All right.
We wanted to share a couple of things that the district level team, all the principals have been working with over the summer. One of them, years and years ago, when I was at Whitcomb, we started talking about PBIS, right? So, and the way that the students were first introduced to that was a little bit about, these are the Whitcomb School core values. These are the expectations, and this is what they look like. And so we spent a lot of time, because you're about to relaunch that,
Yes.
and you want all the community members to know that, to expect more information, and we're hoping the students will come home and share it. But do you want to update the community a little bit
Absolutely.
about that?
So PBIS at Whitcomb goes by the acronym ROAR,
Yeah.
which contains our core values. So ROAR stands for respect, opportunities, academics, and responsibility. So those are the values that we hope to model for our students, as well as instill in our students each day. Our ROAR team just spent the last week, this week, actually developing all of our lesson plans and sharing a lot of that information. We start with just simple expectations. What does it look like when we walk in the hallway? What does it look like? What is appropriate cafeteria expectations? So we start with expectations. We model, sixth grade absolutely will be like walked through those steps. This is how we travel in the hallways. This is how we get our lunch in the cafeteria. We walk them through all of that. So we really start by what are our expectations, and then really trying to build upon that and recognizing when students are following those expectations. That's also important, because often the student who is not following the expectation is the one that gets the attention, unfortunately. And we want to really recognize the students that are following those expectations that might not always get that recognition. So part of PBIS this year is going to be, really following through on that. We've got a couple other things that we're working on to really play that up a bit. Some fun events involving faculty, involving students, grade level wise, little healthy competition, perhaps, which is part of the PBIS model, but really talking about following those expectations, and one of those big ones is going to be cell phone expectations. That is going to be starting on day one. The expectation at Whitcomb is that we are going to be cell phone free, meaning students should not be using their cell phones for any reason in the building. We're going to start out the year with continuing our power down that we did last year, which was pretty successful. And when students, made a mistake, they were actually pretty responsible for the most part with saying, yep, I made a mistake, and turning over their cell phone. So we're going to continue with that power down. And then we do have some other things that we're working on that parents will get a little more information very soon. But the goal is to have Whitcomb cell phone free. And with that, I know goes a little anxiety for parents, a little anxiety about how do I reach my student, how can my student reach me, things like that. So we want to make sure that all parents are aware that they can call the main office at any time to speak to their student. We will make sure that their student comes up and speaks to them. We know parents need to reach out sometimes with changes in scheduling or, need the student to make sure they're at the bus stop for the kindergartner sometimes. So we recognize that happens. So we will absolutely make sure that parents have access to their student. And if a student ever wants to call a parent, that's something else we will make sure happens. They can go to an office, they can go to a teacher's classroom, to make sure that students always have access to their parents as well anytime.
I was just going to say, speaking of anxiety, so one of the reasons why we're having the conversations about cell phone use, primarily, at least initially to start, is at Whitcomb, is that the Surgeon General had just released a report back in May. I know community members might have seen that as far as in the news, that the correlation between cell phone use for adolescents and the impact on mental health, with the social apps and along with a whole bunch of things. It's a really interesting article, and one of the reasons why we are looking and talking about reducing and eliminating as much as possible cell phone use during the school day to try to really address that mental health.
I also want to make sure that the community knows that other districts might be in a slightly different position, but all of our students have one-on-one technology provided by the district. So technology-wise, we have the tools we need that are not cell phones. And so the only concern, like, students should not need to be texting one another or contacting each other during the school day. They're in class. We have expectations of what they would be doing during that time. So the only concern is the parents from a parent perspective, but generally we would always discourage a parent calling into a classroom on a cell phone, and we would always ask that a parent contact either the classroom teacher or the main office. We have phones in every classroom and in every office.
And we can make sure if it's a private conversation that the student is afforded that opportunity to have that private conversation with their parent. We would absolutely never, we recognize families need to keep in contact sometimes.
Mary, I had just realized, we're talking about PBIS, and, in education we have a lot of acronyms. So just for the community, that PBIS is Positive Behavior Intervention Supports or Systems.
Or system, depending on who's talking.
So, that, for school systems, it's focusing on positive behaviors, being proactive.
Establishing relationships.
Yep.
Yes.
Really working on the positive aspects versus, obviously, we do have punitive actions for behaviors, but first emphasizing teaching behaviors and rewarding behaviors, or encouraging positive behaviors. So just, I wanted to let the community know that when we're talking about PBIS, that's what it is. And at Whitcomb, their system for that is their program.
And at times we give a little bit too much information, but just like with the academics, with behaviors, we talk about our tier one, what we provide all students academically, behaviorally, and so that's PBIS. Where what we're putting into place for the cell phones, that's tier one for everyone. part of your plan that you'll be introducing will also have a tier 2. What if someone doesn't follow this rule? What intervention will be put into place? And that's usually 10 to 15%, right? And then they would be, the next step would be that very small, maybe up to 5% of students that need even tier 3, right? And so we look at the world through those lens. And when we talk about behavior, when we talk about positive behavior, a lot of people think of discipline on a state level. The state also asks us, all districts, to have PBIS or some common expectations and core values in place, and also restorative justice program, restorative practices in place. We do have both. We have had both for multiple years. We just might not have communicated it as much as we should, so we're going to try to make sure that everyone understands what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially at middle school, I mean, adolescents, all of you who have teenagers, it's their group on them, unto themselves.
Oh, yes.
So at the elementary level, it's like students go to school because they want to learn. They're there for the teacher. Middle school, I had been in a middle school for 10 years as a team chair in my former district. And middle school kids are coming not for the teacher, not for the learning. They are there for the social, the friends, and the learning piece is second. But they're kids. So we don't expect kids to be perfect and act perfect. I mean, my kids certainly didn't at home. And so we need to teach those expectations. And when they do make a mistake is encouraging them. But again, that learning opportunity.
So I was thinking different expectations in different locations, right? In the cafeteria you had mentioned earlier, there's something new at Whitcomb School. Do you want to keep that a surprise, or do you want to tell the students about what will be new in the cafeteria?
Well, still waiting for it to be done.
Tile work is in
Tile
play.
work has been interesting. But yes, our cafeterias will have a little bit of a different look, and we have some new equipment. And I've been told that our lunches might even look a little different. Some more exciting things happening at lunch.
Maybe a different menu?
Maybe some different options. So I'm excited to hear a little more about that. Just like the students are.
Yep. So I was up there a couple weeks ago, just looking at some of the construction. So huge facelift, renovations. I think they could probably go on HGTV. As one of those demo things. So wider open doors and more of an open concept versus going in that door and going down the line. So really making that a welcoming environment.
We also want to take this opportunity, as always, to remind families that there is no paperwork required, and that all of our students are able to have free breakfast and free lunch on a daily basis, and we encourage. We're very excited that when we have exceeded over 75% of our students accessing our great meals, because our cafeteria department has been working very hard to grow excitement about our meals, and they've been pretty successful about it.
Yeah, that was a great statewide, huge thanks out to our state, and that benefit that we had during COVID. I mean, you could see across the board, the impact on students and families to provide that.
So I also want to mention at Whitcomb, while we're talking about free lunch, free breakfast, we had a large percentage of our students actually getting lunch, which was a wonderful thing to see. But we also offer snacks to students that stay for after-school opportunities. Mm-hmm. So that's another big change that families might see coming to Whitcomb, is that we have a lot of after-school activities that they may not have had in the elementary schools. We have things like astronomy club, newspaper, yearbook. We have after-school sports. Students can, at the 6th grade level, start getting involved in sports. We have intramurals for kids that might not make our sports teams, but still want to be physical, active. trying to think of some other clubs. We have robotics, which is
Yes,
a big
that's
one,
huge.
our competitive robotics.
They did a presentation at one of the school committee meetings, and they've gone to competitions, have been very, very successful. So,
Yeah,
it's been
student
great.
council, that's another big one that happens starting in 6th grade. So there's a lot of opportunities for our students after school at Whitcomb, and, as part of our food program, we also provide that snack to them.
And
during that time.
unique, something different for elementary students transitioning, there's also late buses,
Yes.
which allows a number. So sports, there are not late buses for that, right? Friends need to team up and make those arrangements.
Because they stay late, the practices are later than what,
Than the late
or the
bus.
games.
Yeah, it really varies depending on sport.
Yeah.
I know our track and field and our, those try to make their practices end so
Yeah.
that students can get, so that the late buses really do depend on the sport. But if a student stays for an after-school club or activity, or we actually have daily academic assistance. We haven't
Like
really.
a homework-
Yeah,
a
I was
homework
gonna say,
club,
yeah, I
right?
hate
Yes.
to call it homework club because we do much more than homework during that period. But we have that, that's a drop-in. Any student can come and get a little extra help with some academic work, catch up on work that they might have missed, and then the late buses leave Whitcomb about 4 o'clock every day.
And for the sports, I know the sports offerings are not as extensive as the high school, but for fall, it's cross-country and boys and girls soccer.
You're gonna catch me on that one.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that sounds right. And then
And a larger
basketball.
intramural.
Yeah.
Yeah, intramurals tend to be a little bigger. Intramurals is one of those things that we put out a permission slip, and students need to, if they're interested, pick those up quickly because it is first come, first serve. Intramurals does fill up pretty quickly.
And the difference between the two is that the sports, like so cross-country, the students are competing against other middle
Correct.
schools versus intramurals, it's just playing against their own classmates, like just at Whitcomb, correct?
Yep, it's an after-school physical
Yep,
activity.
yep.
They play different games, and students can request certain things. Soccer
Yep.
is a big one for us at the middle school,
Yep.
so we ended up doing a whole part of intramurals that was just students that wanted to play soccer.
Yep.
There also, it's at Whitcomb School, it can be an introduction to a sport. For example, volleyball is not a general Whitcomb sport, but it does take place in intramurals, which allows students to some experience with it before they transition to a high school program.
Yes, because we do have
Yeah.
a high school volleyball team.
Yes, we have multiple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, I just want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I know it can be a little bit of an experience to come on
Wasn't as bad as I
television
That's
here.
what we told you, it's a
We
conversation.
appreciate your time and you joining
Yes.
us.
And just, I want to put one last plug, I'm
Yep.
sorry, to fill in. That even though students are coming to middle school, we still need parents. We still need parents to be involved. We need parents to be involved in their academics. We need parents to continue to reach out to teachers for positives. But we do have things like our, I just blanked on a PTO.
Yeah.
And our school council.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking for parents to be involved in them. Just because they come to middle school doesn't mean we want parents to necessarily take that step back. We welcome parents. So I really want to encourage parent involvement.
That was a great way to end. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Superintendent's Corner. We'll see you next month. Thank you.